One of Ireland's most revered goddesses, Morrigan is a complex figure in myth. She is portrayed as the fearless Celtic goddess of war. She is both a single goddess, known as Morrigan, and a triad of sisters, known as the Morrigan or the Morrigu. Weird, right? Trust us, it only gets weirder from here on. So, let's directly get to her story. The first recorded accounts of Celtic mythology date from the 5th century. Prior to hundreds of years of oral tradition passing down this mythology from generation to generation, Christian monks were the first to document Ireland's mythological past. It's crucial to comprehend the Celtic culture of that time to properly come to a deeper understanding of who Morrigan is. Up to 697 CE, women were warriors who frequently participated in the war or assisted the injured because the Celts idolized warfare. The Morrigan was a reflection of the Celts' pride, which was primarily focused on defending their homes and their territory. By spreading a blanket of fog across the landscape and reducing visibility, Morrigan frequently assisted in defending the population against invading armies, and this made her a key deity in this culture. Given that the Celtic myths had almost gone extinct, finding the precise origin of the Morrigan in the text is challenging. Some claim that she was the Daga's wife, while others argue that she belonged to the Tua de Dana, also known as the goddess Danu's tribe. The tribe was a legendary race that lived in Ireland and descended from the goddess Danu. Daga, her son, was a strong leader. The name Morrigan is thought to roughly translate to the Phantom Queen. She was a shapeshifter like the Puka, but unlike the Puka, she was connected to war, death, and destiny. This phrase, according to scholars, can also be interpreted as the Great Queen. It is also believed that she had a hideous look, and this, combined with her aggressiveness, had a tremendous psychological impact on whomever she chose to fight. But there's more. She can even be seductive, alluring, frightful, and unyielding, all at the same time. Regardless, the Morrigan represents death above all and is frequently celebrated with the Samhain feast. This historic Irish celebration is where Halloween, as we know it today, first started. Morrigan was a devious and unreliable character who was infamous for changing her shape to trick those around her. She preferred transforming into a crow, a symbol of death on a battlefield in and of itself. The goddess was endowed with a number of abilities, including the capacity to forecast the future, perform spells, and alter her physical shape as well. She was also connected to the raven or crow, a symbol of conflict and mortality. The banshee, who could predict the demise of a home by putting out an extraordinarily loud wail or scream, also had its roots in the Morrigan. She typically appeared as an elderly woman with long hair. The term triple goddess is another name for the Morrigan goddess, as a group of 3 Morrigan also seems to be mentioned in Celtic mythology. Each portrayal of Morrigan featured distinctive personalities and characteristics, and they were all as fascinating. Originally, the Morrigan is referred to in the primary mythos of Celtic mythology as 3 sisters. However, their names often vary. Depending on the story you read, names like Morrigan, Morrig, Morrigana, Maga, Naaman, Baive, Maeve, Anaid, Eru, Banba, and Fodla are all possibilities. Regardless, the sisters were typically either one supernatural entity or 3 separate entities, each with unique qualities. Being mysterious was their characteristic, which explains why there's so much ambiguity around the aspect of her story. The first sister, the Flying Crow, Baive, was in charge of taking casualties on the battlefield, a war goddess who is commonly seen hovering over battles as a hooded crow or running alongside soldiers in the form of a gray-red wolf. She was associated with warfare, destruction, and death. The term murder of crows refers to a group of birds. This could be an allusion to the Morrigan, who formerly appeared as a crow and flew over battlefields as a sign of death. Baive was rumored to occasionally join the battle on the battlefield, using a sword and magic to defeat her enemies. She also clearly had a preference group, as the enemy soldiers were made to feel confused and terrified by her presence. However, Baive was also a kind of guide who transported spirits from death following a conflict to their rebirth in the afterlife. She is a prophetess, because she sits on the border between the world of spirits and that of mortals. It didn't mean that just because you requested the Morrigan for assistance in winning a battle, that there wouldn't be losses on either side, or that you would live to see the triumph. Fighters dreaded seeing her fly above them, because they thought it meant they were going to die. To give the Morrigan time to reclaim their souls, they would delay burying their fallen allies for a day after the battle. The second sister was the goddess Anaid, who is represented by the attributes of fertility, livestock, war, and prosperity. She was in charge of eliminating the weak, and during battle, she was rumored to fasten the death of those dying by comforting them in the shape of death. Anaid, too, was a prophetess, and her battle cries foretold impending doom. She terrified, scared, and confused men on the battlefield into passing out from fear or mistaking their own allies for enemies by wailing ferociously. The feature relates to the Banshee character. She also goes by the name Naaman in certain contemporary works. This name can mean panic, frenzy, or venomous. The third sister is the goddess Macha, who is linked with war, ravens, horses, land, and dominion. She appeared in legends multiple times, but the one most people are familiar with described her as the spouse of Kruniuk. The root word mag means field, plain, or pasture. This name binded Macha to the sacred land and gave her control over the horses, signifying prosperity, power, and eminent warriors. She rained fire and blood on her foes, as one of the trinity of sisters. Many myths mix her up with Morrigan. She too made her appearances on the battlefields as a crow and influenced the outcomes of wars. However, Macha's more well-known mythological appearance as a horse is the fundamental distinction between them. Despite being known as the goddess of battle, some scholars think her association with violence was merely defensive. She is referred to as the washer at the ford in some myths. That's because it was an omen that a warrior would die in the following battle if he saw her washing his armor. She also influenced how fights would turn out, and gaining Morrigan's approval could guarantee success. Now back to the singular form of the goddess. She frequently assumed a human form in the earlier Ulster cycles of Irish mythology, and in the later tales, she changed into various animals and bodies of water. The Morrigan is one of the most popular characters that has been constantly adapted in modern times in numerous mediums and channels. At the same time, numerous written books have also included the Morrigan narrative. She is one of the gods in the comic book series The Wicked plus the Divine. In the macabre comic book, A Dirty Job, Morrigan appears in all three of her forms. The deity is mentioned in some songs as well. Glenn Danzig's Black Area is represented as a song on the Morrigan classical album. Sons of the Morrigan is a song by the Celtic metal group Primordial. The goddess who also appeared in video games, including the Darkstalkers series, which has a character with the same name. A similar deity can also be seen in the video game Mabinogi. This shows us how significant the idea of her existence is. Had there been more coverage of Celtic myths, people would have known the mystical roots of the Celtic culture. That was it for this goddess. She was undoubtedly exceptional, which is why she is so well known in Celtic mythology. We hope you enjoyed learning about this deity. Now it's your chance to share your thoughts on this goddess and which of the three sisters frighten you the most. Leave your answers in the comment box below. We'll see you next time with another amazing story. Until then, stay mythically mad.